Welcome back to the Worship Tech Tour series. Today we continue our journey into Mavuno Churchill Cities Tech. Get ready to discover the inner workings of the Behringer Wing mixer, the S32 and S316 stage boxes, and the inputs and outputs that make it all possible. So let's get into it.
You can show us some cool things, some Greek cool things.
So now if I come to now the mixer itself, it's divided into 3 sections. So there's this bank of faders that you have your 12 faders, and these are 8 faders, and these are 4 faders. How I have done it here, many people they have their own preferences, but how I've done it here, I have all my inputs being controlled on this side of the mixer, and then this side of the mixer just deals with now my outputs, how I'm routing my signal to, especially to the monitors on stage, to the band in ears, and then now this side deals with my master section. So this is where actually the signal I have routed, and I'm controlling signal that's going now to my front of house or my matrices, however they will be. You have it divided into banks of 12. So like you see, this is 1 and 12. So if I click that, it changes to reflect my first 12 channels. 13 to 14, my next 12 channels. 25 to 36, my next channels, and then that way. So this is how we actually get to jump from
it's like layers. It's like from one layer to another.
Layers, or banks. Okay. How we put it. How we've actually, and in most cases, this is probably how your mix normally starts. You start with the drums, and then we go to the instruments, and then we finish with the vocalist. So on my bank, the first bank 1 to 12, I did say the drums, it occupies 9 channels. So I would have my drums layered from 1 to 9. So I have a kick drum. I don't have a kick in or kick out, just a single mic. And then I have a condenser mic on the hi-hat. For the snare, I'm using 2 mics. I have a mic at the top and a mic at the bottom. Then I have a high tom, which would be tom 1, mid tom, which would be tom 2, low tom, which would be your floor tom. And then I have 2 overhead mics, crash and ride. So that's all my mics. And then further down into the mix, we have our music director, who normally also we give him a mic so that he's able to communicate with the band as needed. So I have his mic coming there. This mic never goes to the house. It's sent just to the band for the evenings.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So on the second bank, I have a bass, the bass guitar, the lead guitar, and then I also have a talkback. It has my name right over there with a smiley face. Like that.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I have that, and then I have the senior pastor, the preaching pastor.
Yeah.
We just normally have one mic. It's a Shure headset Countryman. So I have his mic coming there. And then going further down, I have my tracks. And then I have a metronome, which is also a guiding track. This also does not go to the house. It just goes to the band. And for our worship leaders, for the time when they have an in-ears, they can actually hear the guiding track. And then I have my keyboard. I have them on 2 channels because for some funny reason, not really funny reason, I could use 1 fader as I was saying initially, but our music director feels like he loses something when you use it like that. So he prefers going the old school way, where I have 1 channel dedicated to the left, 1 channel dedicated to the right. And I have panned them. So like the left, I've panned it to the left, the right, I've panned it to the right. What that means, if I click on this select, it shows you all the processing that is done on that channel.
Yeah.
So like right over here, I have my home, which now this is an overview. This is the EQ. So if I tap that, it will take me to the EQ where I can do my equalization. For the drums, it's basically flat. There's nothing there. If I go back home, this is where I can give it an icon. Like if I want, I can choose from a variety of icons that are there. But since this is keyboard, it will be right over there, and then I'll choose that. I can give it a name, and I can give it a tag. A tag simply is a way the Wing has used to group specific channels. Like if I had multiple keyboards, I would give them the same tag as on keys, and that gives me just the ability to quickly jump into that bank of tags and do some manipulations if I need to. So those are my keyboards. I have these keys too as a standby for when we have a second keyboardist. We can just give him those channels. And then when I go to the third layer, 25, this is now where I have all my vocalists. We normally have 6 cordless mics. So that would be from that to that, and then
Which cordless mics do you use?
we use the Shure SM58 for cordless mics, and then we have also about 6 or 8 corded mics. Still, the Shure SM58 that we use as corded mics. So when we have more than 6 singers on stage, so they get to use a corded mic. And then on the last band is now where I have our music coming in as iMac from the back, and I can actually control that.
All right. Now it's the outputs.
So now when we get to the outputs, we have 2 physical monitors on stage. So we have a single monitor, which I'll show you guys, that's at the center of the stage. That's basically for what we send on that is whoever is leading the louder on that monitor and the preaching pastor, so that they're able to hear themselves louder than anyone else. And then we have the other 2 monitors, that the other mix of monitors that's actually patched, so the signal is looped. And that is to benefit now the other vocalist, because we don't have an in-ear system for our vocalists. So we still rely on the physical monitors. It's the disadvantage with that is which you find some churches are actually, and even us, we're trusting God to transition from using the physical monitors and in-ears. Is that during service it tends to get loud. And basically because you have so many monitors on stage, so it gets to get loud that it necessarily needs to be. But in our case, that's what we do. So I have my mix buses spread out, bus 1. So we have like you see I have my keys. So this is the in-ear mix for if I need to like do a custom mix for the keyboard. For this mixer, I'll need to select that and then do this S or F clip. What that means, it sends on Cedar flip. So now this mix changes to reflect what is going there. So for example, as you can see, I don't, this mix is, if I uncheck it, this is my front of house mix. If I press this, now this is the mix that goes to the keyboard. He prefers, because he needs to hear himself, his mic is up, drums not as much, the keyboards are up, the vocalist. So this is how we do custom mixes for the band. And even for somebody if he has an ear. It's just now the same thing, but you duplicate to however many mix buses you have. Which in our case we have keys, guitar, bass, drums. We have in-ear wireless in-ear for our lead singer. So that's and then we have I would say we have 2 sets of monitors. So the BGV center is the one that I've actually showed you for just the lead singer, and then the BGV is actually the one that we've patched together. So these are the mixes that we use on stage. And then now, which I'll show you how we've routed our speakers. I have my signal on the main matrix. It goes to our mains. So this controls the main mix for everything. I've taken matrices off the sub mix because I would want an independent way of just controlling what is being heard here versus what is being heard in the control room. So instead of just having a left and right and then it's what it's picking, I have a matrix, like if you can see, that is picking. So we have our front of house center, these two, and the control room. They're picking their signal from this. So the processing that is done here, there's not much processing here. I just use it as a path so that I'm able to, even now I can do my recordings. My recordings are coming from here. Because the other ability this mixer helps you with is you can record directly on a flash disk or on a memory stick, and you can also record multicam recording. So like on every service, I normally have a flash disk plugged in. And I want that recording to have not as much processing as I would want, as I've done for our house. So that if I listen back to it, it's almost as raw, like I haven't done any EQing. When I go to my house mix, now depending on the kind of speakers that I have, I would EQ it a bit differently so that it just suits the needs of the people in the congregation.
Does the recording do a mix down, or does it give you separate channels, like if you are recording on a Sunday, for example?
So the recording on the flash disk, it just gives you a mix down.
All right.
Well, technically you can record up to four channels on it. But I just pick left and right. So that I just have a mix down. What I do with that is at times I can send it to our worship team so that they can actually listen and take notes on how they sounded, if they need to make any changes. Also, at times, if I need to upload something, because at times we also record our cameras on cards. So if I need to do a mix, to upload something on our YouTube page, then that's the audio that I'm going to merge with the video that has been recorded on our video mixer. So, because the mix on that is it's normally good compared to what is on the video mixer or on the card per se. So that's why actually I've done it that way. And we can do up to 8 matrices of a specific main bus. So this mixer also, what it does on the routing, if I can show you, I can just pick a random channel. For example, let's say this is our lead singer's mic. On the outputs, you can see it has 4 mains out. So that gives me the ability of actually just sending this channel to different outputs. But how I've utilized it here is I only use 2 of those mains. I have my sub mix, which I've showed you what it is, and then I have my subs. So I have my subwoofers running off a main. So what that means, if I come to my kick, if I select my kick, you'd notice I've only sent it on the subs. And you might be asking, why not on the sub mix? Because I have actually used a different system that I haven't showed you. If I go to my buzz master again, I have utilized the last 4 buzzes. It has 16 buzz outputs. up to 16 bars outputs. So the last 4 of them, I've used them as subgroups, where I have one of the subgroups. So all the vocalists, all the vocal mics, they don't go straight to the submix. They pass through the subgroups first, then to the main mix. The reason I've done that is that I may have global processing on specific channel. In my case, I have 4. So I have the vocalists on a subgroup, the guitars on a subgroup, the keys on a subgroup, and the drums on a subgroup. So if I go to the vocalist subgroup, for example, what I'm saying global effects is like, for example, I've done an EQ. So this is how my EQ for all the vocalist sounds. So they all have individual EQing on their channels, but now when we put them together, you still find there's some frequencies, certain frequencies that make the vocalist sounds a bit harsh as they sing. So I have identified some of those frequencies and then just killed them globally on all the vocalists. So that's the advantage of actually having the subgroups. It's like you can have global processing on the individual banks of whatever signals that are coming in. So which I won't get into so much of that, but something else you can do is having what is this called, a compressor. You can do a compressor on the specific channels. And then, so now that, if I come onto that, if I go to my outputs, you see now that is what I have sent on the submix. Yeah. So this would also act as a volume control. So if I need all my vocalists, I feel they're a bit soft, I need them to go up, I don't have to come to my vocals channel and start pushing each individually. Yeah. I can just push that up with one button, bring it down if I feel it's too high. So I can also do just a custom mix on these 4 faders, independent on now my main mix. Wow. So that also helps with just bring levels down, trying to balance the mix in a way that it sounds good. One of the game changers with the digital mixes is how small the snake cable is. Yeah. For those guys who are still in the analog stage, I will surprise you. I will surprise myself.
You surprised me too, actually. I remember when you showed me.
When I saw you actually how the snake cable is. At the back, I hope you guys can see this.
Yes.
But this is where most of the things get patched. I'll just show you how, because this is impressive. This technology is, this is our snake cable.
Wow. Just that one thing.
Just this one thing. It carries about, I told you we are using 24 channels coming in. Yeah. And about 10 channels that are going out. They're all being done through this. Yeah. It's not a normal, it's like an Ethernet cable, but this is shielded. That means it has some grounding, but that's all it is. And this thing is like 100 meters long. We've run it through under the the cabro, all the way to the front. So this is what links. That is what links now our house to this.
That's insane. So like all the 48 channels, every single channel would go through that.
Yeah, and then it can carry even more channels depending on how big of stage boxes you have. Yeah. I'll show you what a stage box is.
All right.
But now, if I need to get channels from our stage to here, I would select a channel. For example, let me select that. You've seen that name already, channel. And then on the second, so this becomes like the channel strip. Yeah. If you guys like the analog where you have your EQ, your auxiliaries, that kind of thing. This becomes your channel strip. So whatever you've selected, you can tweak specific aspects of this. I've showed you the home is where now you can just have an overview of all the processing that is done on this mic.
Yeah.
This mic one here, this is, if I need to change the input, that's where I would jump. I've added a few things. This is more like a crossover compressor of some sort. This is a gate. This is my EQ, and this is my main out. So if I touch any of this, if you look down here, they're also spread out. So this would be your input section. This would be your first effects that you can plug in. Your equalizer, your second effect, you can have an insert. This is a main. So if I jump to this, now you see I'm able to actually, it has changed. It will be the same as me tapping on that.
Yeah.
But let me just go through the longer way. That so if I need to bring a specific input there, I would come here and then tap on that, and then now it would give me options. So this source, when I click on that, I can pick my source from multiple sources. It can be local in, that would be on the board itself.
Yeah.
It can be auxiliary in, still on the board itself. Now, whatever that name, or something A. Now that is that snake that I showed you guys.
Yeah.
It runs to our stage box at the front.
Yeah.
So all our inputs for the stage, they're coming through that.
Yeah.
So that's where I would tap that, and then it shows me, you see this has 48.
Yeah.
Then I would need to identify where on the stage have I plugged in that signal.
All right.
So then I can actually change. Just tapping on it, that's easy. Whatever you tap on, that is what the signal that's going through this.
Yeah.
But for me to make work easier, I have actually just from 1 to 12, I pre-assign them. So my 1, if I tap, you see it has reflected. So as I continue tapping, it actually shows me where that signal is coming from.
Yes, I can see. That's
so
cool.
whatever is highlighted, you can actually know, okay, that's where actually I'm getting signal from.
Yeah.
So you can have multiple places where that signal is coming in. And that's actually how we get our signal from the front to here. Something else, if I can also show you while we're on the signal path, is I've used 2 stage boxes. I've used the S32, also a product by Behringer.
Yeah.
That gives me 32 inputs and 16 outputs. And then I also have an SD16 that is linked to the S32. And I will tell you why I've done it in that way.
Yeah.
So that gives me 16 inputs and 8 outputs. So in a total, that totals to 32 plus 16, I believe that's 48.
Yes.
And then 16 plus 8, that's 24. So I can have a total of 48 different outputs from my stage.
Wow.
And I can have 24 different
48 inputs. Is it 48 inputs or
48
outputs?
inputs.
Yeah.
And then 24 output, because it's 16 plus 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that is impressive.
So once the challenge in every mix is just setting up. I can just give you a brief of actually how we've utilized our outputs.
Yeah.
So we have 3. I've showed you like the monitors. We have 2 pairs of monitors, so that takes care of 2 outputs. And then we have our front of house left and right. So those are 4 outputs.
Yeah.
And then we have 3 sets of subwoofers, which utilizes 3 different outputs, but they're all coming from the same subwoofer.
Yeah.
I've showed you the matrix, how we can actually control them individually. The reason we've done that is we are using some passive subwoofers that we double 18 that are EQ'd slightly differently And then we have another set of subwoofers, single 18s dB, that also needs to be EQ'd differently. And then we also have 2 sets of delay speakers, because you see our church is actually a bit big and a bit wide.
Yeah.
So we have some speakers that are spread out. I believe you've seen us putting those up today.
Yes.
So those have their own different control. And then we also have some 2 speakers that are delay at the center of the church, that also just acts as delay, so that we don't have to push our front of house so much loud at the expense of the people in front, so that we can actually get to it the back. So as we bring all that up, is we have quite a number of speakers, but they're spread out in the sanctuary. That means we can push our sound not as loud, so we are not hurting like our front of house speakers, because we are expecting so much of them, because we have now these other delay speakers that are supplementing where the actually sound is supposed to reach. So that just helps in at the long run. We have a longer serving speakers that will take us for much longer, and plus we are not blasting people's ears. Knowing also that we are in just right behind Great Wall.
Residential apartment
areas. So also just trying to be a bit more careful with how we manage sound in this area. So that's actually how there's so much details. That's just like what you need
like
to
an overview
of actually how we do the mix.
Wow. Can probably now, after that amazing explanation of that, we can go and you show me some of the different type of equipment that you... Yeah, awesome.
Okay, sure.
That's it for this episode of the Worship Tech Tour series at Mavuno Church Hill City. We hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at their technology setup. Consider supporting the channel and discovering more worship technology setups by becoming a Patreon or subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to share this video with all your friends and fellow worship leaders. Until next time, let's keep exploring the intersection of worship and technology. See ya.